This is simply amazing right here. Even till this day, I never thought 1,000 people would even think I was worth their subscription. I've never taken this YouTube stuff as a job, but that's because I've already got a normal good job, which is at Amazon. But it's just remind me of all the terrible jobs I had before then. Like working at Burger Town. You remember Burger Town? Oh my gosh, never again. All those burgers I had to flip. I was even tired of burgers back then. Or even those retail jobs. Oh my gosh, having to convince customers cheap headphones was worth their time. Never again. Or even those cashier shifts I used to have to take. Oh my gosh, I remember this one time I had to help this elderly lady. She was about 70. Figure out the type of computer she was buying. Oh my goodness, never again. All of this with a smile on my face. Can't forget about that one airport job. Oh my gosh, I remember we used to get paid $8 an hour for this one. And we had to check the planes for bombs underneath the seats, for weapons. Oh my gosh, we even had to clean the whole plane. But the only cool part is there was one time there was a NFL team that came and we had to clean their planes. But even then, imagine getting $8 for just to check a plane for bombs and weapons. Now, what if there is a bomb? And what if I die just for $8 an hour? Oh my gosh, what a brutal job that was. But that wasn't even the worst part. Can't forget about the slaughterhouse. Oh my gosh, this is one of the worst jobs I had yet. I remember I used to come home with my hand all bruised and swollen just from cutting meat after meat after meat. And those meats were just pigs, huge pork. And by the way, if you don't know, fun fact, pork skin is how they make Doritos. Well, there you go right there. But I remember I used to have to look at pigs after pigs hung up with their loins being, got gutted. It was like a scary movie. It was like Texas Chainsaw Massacre right there. It was just brutal. Some was hanged in a freezer. Oh my gosh, I used to see their insides, dude. It was just bad. That job was terrible. But at least this job paid a little bit, a little bit more than the airport. I can't lie though, I am very grateful. I do thank God for all you guys. The fact that I even reached 1,000 subscribers is insane. Again, I'm just a normal guy that just works like a normal person, and I can't believe 1,000 people, really 1,000 people on YouTube. I've heard some, I don't know if this statistic is still correct, but I did hear like, what is it, more, not even 10% of YouTubers reach 1,000, if I was correct. I don't know if I'm wrong about that, but I know it's pretty hard too. And I do appreciate everybody that subscribe, all those that watch the live streams. Of course I appreciate y'all boys, man. And this is why I kind of want to make this video, tell you a little bit about myself, and kind of want to explain what I do on this channel and why I do it. Gibby, why do you complain so much about games on this channel? Now, before I even answer that question, I kind of want to, take you back, what got me into video games in the first place. And then I'll explain it on the way down. So, when I first came to America, I did have a stepbrother that did have a PlayStation 1. He had an Xbox. He had an original, NES, N64. He had all the old stuff, PS2. He had all of that. And I remember playing on his Game Boy Color, I think it was. I used to play some a Pokemon game. I don't remember which one it is. If I had a Game Boy, I would gladly play it again. I used to play on his PSP. I remember playing, I think, the first Ratchet and Clank on his PSP. It was one Ratchet and Clank. I didn't know which one. I was super young. But I remember it was Ratchet and Clank, right? And I used to play that every time. I remember he got his PSP, and I used to always borrow it. I used to always play that Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet and Clank was so fun. But that's where it started for me, playing some video games. And then I played in Mario 64. Then I played a couple old PS2 games, GTA 3, etc. All the very classic games I used to play. And, I remember one time, also what got me into, the shooters. At first, I actually played Halo first. I remember I went to somebody's house, and since we didn't have Halo, I went to some guy's party. I think it was a party. I went to his house, and then I started, he had Halo in the background, while some people was playing Halo in the background. And I remember my dad again didn't allow us to play games too much. He didn't even know I was playing the PSP. He didn't know I was playing the PS1, the PlayStation 2. He didn't know I was playing that because where we grew up, game was looked down upon. People didn't allow kids to play games, and which is not a bad thing because especially with kids now. But our parents never allowed us to play games. Well, in my culture, they didn't allow us to play games at all, and back then they didn't allow kids to play games for that long. There was a time to play games, and there was criteria, certain things you had to meet, in order to play games. Like things like you had to do your chores, you had to bring home the right grades, and this was back then. I don't know about now. I've seen some kids, their parents allow them to do anything, but in my culture, my dad didn't let me, and my stepbrother, his mom, didn't allow him to play games every time. She'll limit the amount of games, but that's besides the point. Just a little background. But we went to this party, somebody's house, right? I think it was New Year's, and he had Halo in the background. Some people were playing Halo, and it was split screen. Remember split screen? Oh man, it was split screen. They were playing on the first map, I remember, and they were playing Capture the Flag. And I remember I asked them, I was like, hey, can I join into this too? They had multiple Xbox controllers back then when controllers were cheap. And controllers were, games system will come in with 2 controllers, I believe. Yeah. So they allowed me to play a little bit. And I remember I fell in love with the game instantly. I played the Capture the Flag. You don't know how much fun your boy was having. Your boy was killing it, man. And I picked up the game and I was doing good. The game wasn't that difficult. I was using that the first assault rifle. They were using snipers, and some of the rocket launchers. But I was doing pretty good. I was camping in their base. I kept killing them. Take the flag. My other teammate would, sit there and get the flag and run back as I protect, and then he'll put it back. I'll keep picking up their flag. We were kind of dominating, and I fell in love with Halo instantly, bruh. I remember, and then after I went home, since we had an original Xbox, I remember asking my stepmom, hey, can we buy, Halo for Christmas, blah, 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 right? But she didn't. So I remember we had a computer at the house, and before I learned how to download games, the first game I decided to download was Wizard 101. Do anybody remember Wizard 101? Only OGs will remember that, but it was a wizard game. It was an online free game. A lot of kids used to play it back then, and I was included. I played it. I downloaded it. I played it a little bit, and that's the first game I downloaded on the computer. But before that, I was playing GTA 3, all the old classics. But Halo, I only played at somebody's house, right? So I downloaded Wizard 101. Then I started playing PC games then. And then I went on YouTube. I figured out how, I just searched it up. I figured out how to download games for free. And this is where back then where you had to download multiple parts before you can put the games together. There was no WinRAR. So you had to download multiple parts and then you had to put the game together. And there was this website. I downloaded Halo Combat Evolved, the first Halo on. And I figured out how to download it. And I can't tell you how much I fell in love with the Halo games, bruh. I played Halo every single day. The game was fun. And this was back then where, you didn't worry about too much. The game was just made fun. There was no glitches. I didn't have to worry about none of that. All I had to worry about booting it up and my computer working and playing the game. And this was back then when multiplayer was, I think multiplayer is still free on PC, but it was we had browsers server browsers. There was no, connecting. It was a server browser. So I remember playing Halo, Halo Combat Evolve. I used to play with my brother and a couple of people that used to play on the computer. Remember back then where you could do network, custom games that were on your network. So we used to do that a lot. I fell in love with the game. We used to play with the snipers. We used to play with just grenades, rocket launchers, etc. If you played Halo, you know about this. So we played that. That was, one of the first games I fell in love with a lot. And then I remember also picking up another game I really fell in love with also was Black Ops 1. I used to play a lot of Black Ops 1. A lot of it. To play a lot of it of Black Ops 1. But before we get there, I kind of want to mention some games also that were extremely fun, but yet hard as a kid, was very challenging that I used to play. And I remember mentioning it a lot is Paperboy. We used to play a lot of Paperboy back then, and this was on the NES if I remember correctly. And this was another game that made me fell in love with games. And notice the key word. These games were fun, fellas. When I mean fun, you could play them. They didn't have to have a multiplayer. They didn't have to have content to be fun, to be replayed constantly. They didn't have to have, DLCs. You could play them constantly. The same thing constantly. Right? And this was Paperboy. This was Mario 64. This was Mega Man. This was Bomberman 64. This was the original Mario. This was Pokemon on the Game Boy Colors. These games didn't need DLCs. They didn't need, extra content. I was replaying these things every day. And the thing is, I still play Mario 64 consistently. And the thing is, it doesn't have DLC. So that's just, keep that in mind. So that was before I met, Black Ops 1. So after Halo, I started getting into the shooting range. Then I remember my stepbrother, this was back then where they allowed burnt CDs. Remember burnt CDs? Instead of buying the game for full price, you would have somebody around your corner. I don't know if anybody remember. I used to live in the hood. You will have somebody around the corner selling burnt CDs, and it would just say Black Ops 1 on there. So CD would not have, all the little graphics it would have. You would know it's a burnt CD, right? So there was a guy around the corner selling burnt CDs. And I remember my stepbrother bought it. And then I remember him booting up Black Ops 1. And this was on the 360. This was when the 360 came out. And by the way, I played, if I'm being honest, the 360 was a pretty good time for Xbox. Very good time. You had Fable, I think it was. You had Halo. You had Gears of War, man. You had a lot of games coming out that was very good on the 360. And they were exclusive, if I remember correctly. But that's besides the point. So he brought Black Ops 1 home, and I didn't know nothing about Call of Duty yet. And I was super young, I didn't know nothing about Call of Duty. I've heard of it, I think, at school, but I didn't play it. I didn't really look into it. And that was when I was playing, stuff like Fate. If I remember, everybody remember Fate, that one game. Those games. I used to play those games first. So he brought Black Ops 1 home, and he put it in. And I seen him playing it. I seen him playing the campaign. I'm like, bro, what? This is another shooter. What game is this? And then, he explained it. And I remember, you can ask my brother, my real brother now to this day, man. I remember eating some macaroni and cheese and playing zombies for the first time. Fellas, you don't know how fun that zombies experience was. And again, keep in mind the key words, fun. You don't know how fun that game was, man. And I remember playing it. I used to be scared of it, but since I was playing it with my stepbrother, he wasn't scared. So I was like, okay, maybe it's not that scary after all. But I remember booting up Kino the Toten the first time. and we played it countless hours, man. We stayed up all night, and this when we had school, fellas. When we had school the next day, we would stay up and we would play it and then we'll wake up the next morning. You know how kids, they have enough energy to go to sleep late and wake up. Now I can't do that. I go to sleep late. I wake up extremely tired and I won't wake up on time. But back then as a kid, you had the energy. So we'll wake up in the morning again and then we'll play more zombies. And then this was before we got to the multiplayer, fellas. And I at the young age, I used to play multiplayer hardcore, bruh. But we'll get to that. So we'll play more zombies. I remember he also had the map 5. I remember the times where we did the glitches that, when that came out. We did some of the glitches, jumping on the table. If you only OGs will remember this. But, we had fun in the zombies. We played all the zombie maps. And then I remember, throughout that time, we also played multiplayer. But before we even got into multiplayer, we used to play custom games every day also. And I remember I learned how to drop shot there. And, we used to troll my little brother. We used to drop shot him and he didn't know how to drop shot, blah, blah, blah. Fun times. And we used to, that's how I learned how to play multiplayer a lot. You see me play on stream time to time, but this is how I learned how to play multiplayer. I had to, play with my stepbrother and my younger brother, and we learned the tricks. We learned, some of the how to play the game through our custom games. And then I remember I played a little bit of boot camp. And then, that's what made me fall in love with Call of Duty. Black Ops 1 was my first Call of Duty I've played. And it is, in my opinion, the best Call of Duty ever made. Such a solid campaign. Such a solid zombie. I'm talking about perfection. Such a great zombie. Such a great multiplayer. Only thing I would change in Black Ops 1 multiplayer, if I remember too much, was everybody using the AK-74U. That's one. In Second Chance, oh my gosh, if they would get rid of Second Chance, if they ever remaster Black Ops 1 and get rid of Second Chance, that would probably be the best Call of Duty, the perfect Call of Duty, in my opinion. Not saying that COD 4 and World at War and Black Ops 2, MW3, those are good too, but in my opinion, Black Ops 1 killed it. For me, it did everything good. So since I was exposed to Black Ops 1, I remember my brother will also bring out, World at War. He'll bring that home. We'll play that. That's how I got into the other ones. Black Ops 2, MW3, COD 4. I remember I played COD 4 actually after World at War. And I played the multiplayer. I remember it was still active. I played Shipment. I remember playing that map. I played Docks. I don't know if that's the real name, but it was dock on a boat, if y'all remember correctly, but I think that's the name of the map. But I played some of the maps, and I remember we got our first DLC that was on COD 4, and we played COD 4, and then from then on I played all the other Call of Duty. So you can see where my love comes from, because I used to play that a lot, and I play multiple games at the same time, just like I do now. I know you guys see I play different games constantly, and I used to do that back then because as a kid, first of all, you had time. And they were fun, fellas. I'm telling you, the Call of Duty at its peak was so good, fellas. COD 4, you know how much fun. Remember, you could play on you could get out the map. I forgot there was a way there was a setting you could put in the game, your custom games, and it will allow you to jump higher. I think it's old school mode, and you could jump out the map. You know how much fun we had. This was without playing online. This was just by myself with me and my brothers. We were playing that. And this was when split screen was a thing, right? So we used to, dude, I miss split screen, by the way. I think more games should allow that, but whatever. So, that's when I fell in love with Call of Duty a lot. And this is why you see me complain a lot about Call of Duty when you have them messing up a lot of things, especially 6v6, and having to. Every game must be live service. Every game must be an online game. Instead of, you being able to play split screen with your brothers, your sisters, whoever you play with, cousins. Instead of being able to play with them, they are forcing you to play online. Look at all the modern CODs now. You cannot even boot them offline, most of them. And this is something that kind of is messing up half of the games now, because they must be an online thing. You must connect to servers to play the game. How many times have you boot up a new Call of Duty? You must connect to servers in order to play. You can't even play offline mode or LAN mode no more. Remember, here's another game I remember playing, and this was at school. I was exposed to this game at school. Remember the original Medal of Honor? I was exposed to that game at school, and this was when you could play LAN. You had to have, other people on your network playing. I remember that game. And I remember playing that at school, fellas. And I know I should be paying attention at school. But also, this was another spot I was exposed to one of the best games out there, which is Medal of Honor. And for the people that actually played that game, you had to be an OG. You had to be OG to play that game. And because I don't even think they make Medal of Honor now. Do they really? Somebody can answer that in the comments. But I don't know if they make Medal of Honor games. But I remember playing the original Medal of Honor, and that was on the computer. And I was exposed to that there. And some of the most fun I've had was in that game. Some of the most fun I've had was not multiplayer. It was custom games or LAN mode. And this is why I continuously complain about Call of Duty when you have skill-based matchmaking and you have all this garbage that they're bringing, because this is not Call of Duty. And this is why I go to the point, I go so low where I talk about the main menu of Call of Duty. I even complain about the main menu because, fellas, look at the old main menu to, I plan on making a video about this, but look at the main menu on World at War. Look, and then look at the main menu in MW2, the new one. It's not anything close to the experience. The main menu gave you a better experience than the game we have now. And imagine not having the main menu we used to have. The smallest thing, fellas, that shows my love for the game. When I can, go this low, where I can, talk about that. And this is why I nitpick a little bit, because games back then used to, it was like a full course meal. It was it was prepared, so, they took their time. It was an art. They took their time. They told, look at the original Dead Space. Look at the developer explain it. He took his time. The team came together and thought about this. And I know we want to blame the publishers too, because the publishers are the problem. You must release the game at this date and this date only. You can't delay it, or you can't take your time to make the game. It must come out this day. And this is the problem, fellas. The gaming has just become a business. And this is what we have to, just have to deal with. And this is why I complain about it, because I can't sit there, fellas, and just, see video games, something I love, go down like this and not say nothing. It's like a child. If you have a child that you had, right? And you love your child. You see your child going down in destruction. When you talk to the child and tell him, you would be a terrible parent if you did not say nothing about that, to that child. You would be a bad parent, and it would be your fault also that they went down that path because you didn't say anything. So, fellas, it's like that with video games. Dude, with the technology we have, why is video games coming out broken? Why is stuff like that happening? you know. And the thing is, that's why I complain about it the most. And the first video, we can take a little bit of trip back again. Campy still, man. And today we talking about how this game gonna die out, man. If it don't update, if it does not update and Infinity Wars don't do what we asked them to do, this game will die out. I'm already taking a break. Like, after this, I'm taking a break from this game. I'm not playing this game no more for a little bit, because this game, it's just not fun to me. I don't know if anybody else having this problem, but this game is not fun. The first video I've made on Call of Duty was when MW 2019 came out. I did notice things when I started playing the game, because I was hype about the game, fellas. I was hype about it. And I know what you're thinking, Gibby, you make these videos for views. If so, then I would be making Call of Duty videos every day, because there's something wrong about Call of Duty every day. Look at all the COD channels. Look at them. They consistently make COD videos every day. And I'm not saying they're doing it for views. That's me. I don't know. Maybe they really, you know, I know they love the game, so they can, and that's their brand. But for me, fellas, I have to complain about every game. I can't just complain about COD, because COD is not the only, you know, the only thing adding into the destruction of games. There are other games, like the new games that are coming out now, God of War, all these games, they're slowly adding on to the destruction of games. And no matter if you believe it or not, yes, games are high, you know, in quantity level, but they are not high in quality levels. You gotta be honest with yourself there. And again, let's take a trip back. The first game, you know, the first video I made about Call of Duty, I don't know, it probably was 2 years ago. I'm not sure. You can look on the channel. But I didn't make a video about it because I was hype about MW 2019. It disappointed me, fellas. Yeah, I kind of enjoyed the campaign, but the multiplayer disappointed me heavy. The 6v6 disappointed me heavy. When I started researching, you know, because, and this was before I started making videos about Call of Duty. I played the game. Now I had to research, why in the world can't I get a consistent good lobby? Why is it I'm jumping from lobby to lobby? Why is lobbies disbanding? Why is this garbage happening? And why am I seeing all this live service blah blah blah? Why am I seeing that? I know we've seen it in Advanced Warfare. I didn't get to complain about it then. Black Ops 3, I didn't get to complain about it then. And then, you know, my final straw had to be MW 2019. And the thing is, once I seen how Call of Duty, and then after I researched, once I seen how Call of Duty was, the direction they were taking, I had to complain about it. I had to get on YouTube. And this was back then, you know, when I started YouTube. I started uploading videos as a kid, and that's not a good thing, because as a kid, you're supposed to focus on being a kid, not trying to upload videos, not trying to do all that. But I'm not gonna I'm not gonna show you the videos because they're cringy and terrible. But I started uploading then. But my first real video, you know, I actually uploaded with care, had to be that Call of Duty video. And I complained about it. And I had to research before, and you know, I had to complain, why in the world my lobbies are not staying consistent? Why in the world am I jumping from lobby to lobby and all this garbage is happening? And I found out that, you know, skill-based matchmaking, all this stuff was happening, and I had to complain about it. And the thing is, fellas, if I'm being honest, that's why I complain about Call of Duty a lot, you know. And that's why I complain about games, because I have a love for them, fellas. I cannot. And the thing is, not every game I criticize makes it complete trash. I will say when it's complete trash, in my opinion. And this is why people, you know, got confused with the God of War and the Calypso. God of War is not trash. I said it's trash compared to the old game. I didn't say it's a complete trash game, like, you know, don't, you know, it's a complete garbage game, don't buy it, blah. I never said that. I said compared to the old game, it is not good. It is trash. But for the games that are coming out now, it is good. That's what I said. But of course, nobody heard that. But, you know, that's why I nitpicked the game, because I love the game, fellas. I cannot just watch games go like this. If, you know what? It's the same with movies. If I was a movie channel, I for sure would have been complaining about movies, because we have a lot of bad movies coming out nowadays, fellas. There are a lot of them. And I've seen some channels that complain about it, and you have to complain about it, fellas, because we love them. If a game come out that you really love and you put your time into, you grew up with, got broken like Battlefield, wouldn't you say something? Hello? You just gonna sit there and be like, okay, they will fix it later? I can't stand for that. No, especially I paid $70. No, I'm not gonna sit for that. No way. And this is why, fellas, I consistently complain about games. And the thing is, I'm pretty nitpicky, and that's just my love for it. I go super deep into it, because if we look back into how the way of developers explain the games they were making, like Halo and BioShock, the way they explain the care and time and the creativity, the thought process that went into it, it shows that they put in time. That means they had to be nitpicky to think about, little things, details they had to put in the game. That's a nitpicking thing. And that's why I nitpick these games now. Because let's be honest, fellas, come on. Keep it real with yourself. They are being more lazy, even more. The more money these businesses are racking up, they're like greedy dogs. The more they're getting, the lazier they're getting. And the more you're showing them, hey man, I can keep buying this every year, the more they will be lazy. I know you've heard this complaint a million times, but it's true, fellas. It's true. Gaming is not. People are saying gaming is at its highest. Yeah, it's at its highest in quantity. Businesses are making a lot of money, but in quality wise, it is deteriorating. It is just downgrading, and you cannot lie to yourself about that. Look at old games versus new games. Look at the PS3 era and the Xbox 360 era. Look at how many games was released in that era, and look how many competition there were. Look at the PS4. Look at that. Look at the PS4. Look how many games got released in the PS4 era. Not too many, fellas. Be honest. Not too many games. Yes, there were some good ones. I'm not gonna lie, but not too many games were released. It's like the PS4 didn't have enough time for them to make games for it. And then the PS5 drop, barely no games are coming out for it. Again, look at the old consoles and how many games. Look at the PS3 library. Have you been on your PS3 library to see the list of games you had? If you played the PS3, be honest with yourself, fellas. Gaming is not rising in quality wise. It is downgrading. And this is again one of the reasons why I complain about Call of Duty the most, because I've played when it was at its roots. I've played them. I even went back and played COD 3 in them. I've played them before, and this was when it was at its root. Look at the World at War campaign. Look at the time they took. And you mean tell me I get a game like World War II? It was a good campaign, but it was still not too good. And I get a game like MW2, the new one that came out, which wasn't bad. It was decent, but decent is not good, fellas. And I get a game like Black Ops 3's campaign. I get a game like Black Ops 4 with no campaign. See what I'm saying? There's so much wrong. And the thing is, I don't want to go too deep into it because I've complained about Call of Duty over my channel a lot anyways. So there it goes right there. So we can move on to other games like Zelda. Remember the old Zelda games? Breath of the Wild, the new Breath of the Wild that came out. I heard it's pretty good. Never got to try it. But Zelda, you had Mario 64. You had Diddy Kong Racing. You had Mario 64. You had Mario Kart Racing 64. You had that game. You had Paperboy. You had a list. I played Dragon Ball Z Budokai. You had a list of games. GTA 3, GTA San Andreas. There's a lot of games, fellas, that came out back then that was just so good. And if you weren't there to experience those, can't help you. I don't know what to tell you. You can download and try to experience them then. But when they came out, fellas, those were good times. Remember Blitz the League? Good times. And this was when games was being crafted. the creativity in those games, and the level design and those things. And fellas, this is the problem. You got to be honest with yourself. Again, I know I repeated this. Games are not being made to be fun. It's about how much can I sell. Why do you think when games come out, they look at, we sold 1 million first week, we sold this many first week? Why? Because they're looking for how many sales, how many people can we make buy this game? We don't care if they don't like it. How many people can we make buy the game? And this is why when you see backlash, like Battlefield 2042, players are leaving, Halo Infinite players are leaving. That's because, fellas, people are getting tired of it. There's a lot of gamers that are getting tired of this stuff. And again, this is all because games has become a business. And again, like I said on my stream one time, I was trying to become a game developer at one point. But the way I see the industry going, I quit that, man. I stopped going to school for that. I changed my major. Because, fellas, there's nothing I'm going to do in the gaming industry. You have big companies over you. So there's nothing you're going to bring to them and say, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. You can try, and I applaud those who try, but I don't think it's going to change anything. And this is why I make these videos, because I hope any indie developer, people that are starting to make games, if, by any chance anybody make their own company, for the love of God, don't follow these high, these big budget AAA game industries. For the love of God, don't follow these routes. If you make a game, first think about, and you must be a gamer yourself. That's another thing. You gotta be a gamer yourself to make games. You cannot just make games. Just like I can't make a movie, I'm not a director, I don't watch movies. I can't make a movie if I don't watch movies. I can't make games if I haven't played games when they were good also. That's another thing, because I know people want to say, oh, that's just the old time. If you're a game developer and you only played The Last of Us 2, or you played the new God of War, you can't become a game developer. You don't know what games are. You really don't. Those are just examples, by the way. But you only play modern games. You cannot make a game because you don't remember. You haven't played a game when a game was a game, if that makes any sense. For example, like the Crash Bandicoot games, 3D platformers like that. You don't know the level design they went through. You have to know, if that makes sense. You have to know games. You had to play them. You had to experience with them. And I'm talking about the old ones, when games were made for gamers. You had to experience those times in order to make one now, or else you're just gonna follow the way they make games now, and you're gonna fall into that AAA industry garbagery, and you're just gonna follow the same trend, the same formula everybody's following now. So again, you can't make games without being a gamer. And this is why I was going to go into the, field of gaming, because I played games, man. I've sat down and played countless hours of games. I know games, I might not know everything, but I know what makes a game fun. But again, there is a corporate greed behind this. So the way I was seeing the gaming and all the messages they have back, in the background, the way I seen it going, I was like, maybe this is not for me. So I didn't go that route. So that's that. But fellas, that's why I complain about games a lot. And to, bring some positivity, I can state some of the games I played that I really enjoyed. I can state games that I liked. Like I said, I liked Black Ops 1. I can name a couple games that, Black Ops 1, remember Bully? Let's take a little bit of Bully real quick. So, Bully came out in 2008? I don't remember. Around those times. Very, very old game. In the PS2 era at that. Bully came out very, very, very old. And I remember playing it on the PS2 for the first time. And fellas, I fell in love with that game with two reasons. Well, not two reasons, many reasons. Let me give some reasons. I fell in love with that game first because it was a school game, and I was a kid, I was in school, and you could do things that you wouldn't be able to do in real life. That's why that game was fun. For example, you could go karting. That was one. You could go to the fair during school hours, but if you got caught, they'll bring you back to school. That's how good it was. But during school hours, instead of being in class, doing biology. By the way, you could do biology, you could do ELA, you could do shop class. Do they even have shop classes now? Shop class. I think you can also do gym. It was fitting that school era. But instead of doing school, you could go to the fair. You could cut grass. You could go karting. And this is why I kind of fell in love with that game, because I know I couldn't do it in real life. So what better way to do it than in a video game, right? You could beat up kids. And I remember when that game first came out, people thought it was just you bullying kids. The game was about to be you bullying kids. There was a picture that was shared with you kicking a kid in the nuts. Or the main character kicking the kid in the nuts, and I remember the backlash that game got, because they thought it was going to be you bullying kids. And the thing is, when you play the game, and those journalists didn't play the game, of course, but when you play the game, it's actually about you stopping bullying. It's about you bringing back, school for the school to be normal, for everybody to get along, not you bullying kids. You could if you wanted to, but you would get in trouble for doing that. There was a consequence for bullying kids. And the thing is, it's not just, the school thing. It's not just, the thing is, in the game, you could also go to school, go to class, and you could do a variety of things. And the thing is, when the open world actually opened up to you also, oh my goodness, you could get haircuts, you could go everywhere around the open world. And the thing is, the open world wasn't too big, it made sense. Places, you would enter one spot, and you could see the change between the good area, and the kind of trashy area. And the game just had small little detail. And as a kid playing that, it was just super fun, fellas. I was running around for days. I was on the bike. And even the theme song of that game, it's so memorable. It is crazy how I'm noticing, and the thing is, this is what I'm noticing also. With the old games, there was always a theme to them. If you seen it or you heard, the game, you would know exactly what game is, displaying in front of you. No matter if you just heard a theme song of Bully, it was Bully. No matter if you just seen a character, it's so memorable. The game is so good in that way. And the thing is, as a kid, you barely paid attention to the story. I didn't know anything about the story until I grew up a little bit. But as a kid, I was mostly having fun, cutting grass. You could cut grass. If you got in trouble, you cut grass in that game. Delivering paper. It's just a small thing. The game was just super fun. And things you could do in that game was crazy. It was just a kid GTA. Think of it that way. It was just a little kid GTA. And there was certain dirty jokes in there that you couldn't tell. Like, there was one time as a kid, I remember I didn't notice. There was one time one of the teachers was coming out of a porn store. And it was just, as a kid, you didn't know. You didn't know that it's, you didn't know that's what was happening. But as you grew up, you figured out. But it was just so fun, fellas. The fun I had in that game was just crazy. And again, for it to have its own, identity, It's not copying. It didn't copy anything. Yeah, it was like a GTA, but even then, it didn't have no stealing cars. It didn't have all the foul words GTA had. It was still like it had its own thing. Bully was its own thing, and that's why I really enjoy that game so much. And I've another game I can segue onto that I kind of miss is the Ratchet and Clank. Remember Ratchet and Clank when it used to be the hero for PlayStation? I don't know what happened to Ratchet and Clank now. I didn't play the new Ratchet and Clank that came out. I think 2014 was it? I didn't play that game. I don't know nothing about it, but I know Ratchet and Clank is one of my favorite game also. And I have many favorite games, fellas. It's crazy, but these are ones as a kid I just I couldn't put down. But I remember Ratchet and Clank. First time I played, like I said, was on a PSP, and the next time was on a PS2. I played the first Ratchet and Clank. I remember playing that game as a kid again, bruh. Even Ratchet the character was just well designed and the writing for that game was pretty good. I mean, you would think it would be cringy, but when I was looking back in it still made me smile. It still was pretty good. And you can't lie, fellas, if you play Ratchet and Clank, don't lie right now. You cried at that part where Clank met his mother.
What are you smiling at?
This is the Ratchet I always knew was there.
Okay, if we're gonna do this, we need to get on to Drek's ship. And then we can find out where he set up that laser.
I will try to make you proud, Mom.
Don't lie, you almost cried at that part. I'll see if I can find it and put it on the screen. But when Clank met his mother, you played as Big Clank. Tell me that wasn't fun, fellas. As a kid, having to adventure and find the secret areas in Ratchet and Clank, jumping from planets to planets, having to connect, when you get a new gadget, you had to go back to the old planet to use it. Oh my gosh. And back then, when you had a again, a very good theme music in the background playing, that's another thing I really miss about games. It's a memorable theme music. And here's why I give the Soul series such a praise, because they have kept that from the original Demon Souls. They kept that all the way to Elden Ring. They kept that. They haven't changed that because they know their fans like that. Their fans enjoy that. And that's why I kind of enjoy in some of these games, the old games, because they had a memorable theme to them. I can't think of any new game that I remember the theme too well of. I'm gonna be honest. Even the new Spider-Man game I've played, God of War, what's that game that came out also? Red Dead. I played a little bit of Red Dead. Don't remember. I actually didn't finish that game, but I don't remember the theme. I don't remember people talking about that either. Ghost of Tsushima, all these new games that came out, 2018, 2017. I don't remember any of those themes, even down to Call of Duty. You right now, tell me the main theme of Black Ops 4. Go ahead. Yeah, you don't know. I know you don't know. Even Black Ops 3. Let me know the main theme for that. So that's just one little minute thing. I know I've talked about this before, but that's one little minute thing. Okay. So you had Ratchet and Clank adventuring out again. This is when 3D platformers was a thing. Also, I kind of miss 3D platforming at that. Anybody else would miss 3D platforming? I think games would be cool. It would be better if they gave us a variety. Yes, I know y'all want to give us this over the shoulder all the time, first person all the time. Mix it up a bit. Make some 3D platformers here and there. Make some 2D platformers here and there. You don't always have to make 3D. Mix it up a little bit. Bring back some games like Jak and Dexter, Ratchet and Clank. Bring back Spyro. Bring back some games like that. Those level design, fellas, also, because these games didn't have the best graphics. They didn't have the best immersive gameplay or whatever they have now. So they had to make it up with the level design. didn't have no open world either, so the level designs had to be fun and had to be good, and that's something Ratchet and Clank did very well. And to add the story on that, the thing is, I used to never look at story back then. Story have become a huge thing. I'll explain that later because some of the story games I've played, but story have become, it was never a thing for me. It was always the gameplay. How much fun, how much time can I play this game? Can I replay this game countlessly? Can I keep replaying this game? You know, so playing Ratchet and Clank, they had to have a good level design, and that's what 3D platformers did pretty well. And you know, look at God of War, the old God of Wars, not open world, but they were pretty good level designs. You know, enemies were pretty fun to play. You know, so that's what these games had to do pretty well, and that's what gives the developer a better, you know, a challenge there, because you can't rely on open world to win. You can't rely on graphics. You can't rely on, you know, pretty videos, pretty aesthetics. You had to rely on the level design. And also, this is why I also give the Soul games credit also, because their level design is top notch for a game that's not open world. Have you played Dark Souls 3, Dark Souls 1? Those games feel like open world despite them not being open world, but the level design is so good, you get lost in a game, you know, where it's just a section of the game, and you get lost in it because, and you have to find things because the level design is so good. And this is why, and this is what games, or another thing games are kind of missing nowadays, if I'm being honest. From the games I played, it's mostly open world. That's what games want to go to now, is open world. How big can I make the open world, you know? And it don't have to be. Imagine if the Spider-Man PS4 wasn't open world, even though despite that, their open world was pretty good. I gotta give them that. But imagine if it wasn't, you know, it was like Web of Shadows. It was just strictly a section, and they, you know, they made the level design top notch. Oh my gosh, I don't know, maybe I would have enjoyed it better, maybe not, I don't know, but I know it would have been cool to, it's cool to think about, you know. So again, level design, Ratchet and Clank level design was top notch. As a kid, I had way too much fun. I even played it again recently. I had way too much fun, fellas. A lot of fun. You know, games like Fallout New Vegas, you know, those are open world, but that's another game that I recently got to play and I enjoyed. I didn't get to play back then. I remember people were playing Fallout 3. I think I played Fallout 3, like I said, on stream, you know, at somebody else's house, and I enjoyed it. I didn't really get what was going on, but I enjoyed it. But, you know, playing my first Fallout game I truly played was Fallout 4. And I had fun in it. It's when I played Fallout New Vegas I noticed, whoa, Fallout 4 is missing, you know, wasn't as good. I went back and played New Vegas, and the fun I'm having in that game is insane. But like I said, fellas, that's another thing that's missing. I've noticed that's missing. Level design is a key thing for games, and most games are missing that now. You know, now it's just a straight up narrow, you know, you run this way down a hallway, and it might not be a hallway, it might just be, you know, just one section. You just run down this hallway, do this, and then you keep running down the hallway. And the thing is, I feel like they're not bothered. And I think Nintendo's still keeping up the 3D platforming, you know, with the level design. I haven't played too many Nintendo games, but I kind of need a Switch to play it. But yeah, I don't see too many, you know, developers bothered by, you know, making a good level design, except for From Software. They still, you know, they still kept that, which I round of applause to them. Again, I never played the Soul games when I was younger, but I did play them recently, and they are pretty good, very good games. I can see why people enjoyed them back then. I wish I got to play them back in that peak time, you know, back in, you know, Dark Souls 1, Demon Souls time, those old times. I wish I got to play them then, but I didn't get to. And again, fellas, this is again one of my favorite games. There you go, Ratchet and Clank. I don't want to go too negative, but one of my favorite game. In that game, I actually can't think of too much I would change about Ratchet and Clank. It was a solid game. It was a solid game. Even Bully, I can't think of too much I would change about it. Maybe, you know, add a little bit more stuff, but you could always say that about everything. But Can't think of too much I would change about them, but I know I had flaws with them. There was some, I could, if I really think deep, I could say some bad things because not games have not been coming out perfect. I'm not saying that, but my goodness, they were fun. Another game I also enjoyed was the original Resident Evil. Oh my goodness, I had fun in that game. Don't lie, don't lie, Claire was looking kind of good back then. Was it Claire? No, it was Jill. I said Claire. Jill was looking kind of good back then. Let's be honest, fellas. Be honest with yourself. Sometimes you guys want to lie to yourself. Be honest, Jill was looking good back then. And be honest, those dogs scared the crap out of you back then when they would pop out that window. Don't lie. And don't lie, walking through the hallways with the fixed cameras, hearing your footstep and then having to hear another footstep after you stopped. Don't lie, that scared the crap out of you too. That game was just well designed, man. And another thing I missed too, fixed cameras. I know people are scared of fixed cameras now. Remember fixed cameras? People are scared of that now. And the thing is, I think that would also bring a little bit of variety to games now. Imagine with the technology we got, the new Silent Hill that's coming out. Imagine if they kept the fixed camera. I don't think they will, but imagine if they kept the fixed camera with the technology we have. That would be kind of cool. It's a variety, fellas. It don't always have to be an over-the-shoulder 3D all the time. It could be, it could be something different. It don't always. It is what I want with games. Variety. Give me a variety. Let me play your game. Let your game be different. It don't always have to be over the shoulder or third person 3D. It don't always have to be that way, fellas, if I'm being honest. And that's another thing. The Resident Evil 1 games, man, playing it as a kid. I didn't play it, as young. I played it kind of, in my teens, or kind of getting into that adult, kind of grown phase. But I played them also. I didn't play them in their peak, but I did play them when I was younger. And to play that game, it scared the crap out of me. I remember that, man. And if I got scared with zombies in Black Ops 1, for sure I got scared with Resident Evil 1. And I can't lie, fellas, that was one of the classics. I know it's a classic, but it's pretty good, fellas. It's a very good game. I even played the HD one recently, and they allow you to play with the OG setups, which is cool. I feel like the new Resident Evil 4 that's coming out, the remaster, the remake, I think it's still going to be good, but I feel like they should have gave you an option to switch it to the OG experience. Give the players a double experience in that game. Imagine you get to play it like how they're going to make it now, and you get to play it as the OG version. You know how cool that would be, man. The things they could do with this technology that they are not doing. Resident Evil's one of my favorite with the puzzles. That was pretty fun. One thing I probably would change about it was the stupid little things you had to get to save the game. That was pretty rough the first time I played it. I couldn't save the game until I found one. That was pretty rough. But that's it. After that, the game was near perfection. It was perfection, actually. It was a masterpiece. Very good game. But that's it after that. But another game I would say, so since people think I hate cutscenes, I kind of want to get into games that are story driven, because I like games that are story driven, fellas. I don't hate games that are story driven. I know I made games about cutscenes, but I don't hate. And the thing is, the people that watch those videos, I feel like they're not gonna watch this video, to its fullest to know exactly what I'm saying. But I don't hate cutscenes. I'm gonna explain it quickly. I don't hate cutscenes. I just hate games that say they open world and have too much cutscenes. Too much cutscenes also bad too in a game, especially that's meant for gameplay. But too much cutscenes and a dull story, a terrible story, also adds on to the too much cutscene. If you have a good story, okay, I guess I can force myself to sit there and be interested. But if it's a dull story, it's a terrible story, and it's mediocre, I'm not gonna want to sit into 4 minutes of cutscene, 5 minutes, all this amount of cutscenes for that. And this is why I complain about God of War, the new one, because of that. That was a main problem. That was a, people don't want to point it out, but that was a main problem, fellas. That was a bad thing. Back then, games were 98 or 90% gameplay. Hear that? 90% gameplay, and then the rest was cutscenes. So strictly, it was more gameplay because it's a game. It's not a movie. You can't have 7 hours worth of cutscene, man. I just don't understand the hype for that. I don't like it. If you're gonna make a movie, make a movie. If you're gonna make a game, give me more gameplay. Throughout the missions, give me more gameplay than cutscenes. But that's it right there. So I made a whole video about this. So I can name a couple story-driven games, strictly story-driven game that I really enjoyed because the story was solid, and I could sit there, from time to time I'll play them. The Walking Dead, Telltale games. Why in the world do I enjoy that game so much? I'm gonna tell you. So first time I played that game was on the 360, and that's when you had to buy, the episodes. I remember falling in love with that game. The only reason I fell in love with it was because the story was solid, fellas. You had a father and daughter. Just the father and daughter connection between Lee and Clementine was just insanely good, and that's what made the game solid. And I know the one thing I'll point out, one thing I'll change, but that was solid. And the choices you got to make, the game made you feel like you were actually that character. It kind of did. When I played it, it made me feel like I was Lee, because I was making decisions. I could either be a stupid, or I could be reasonable, and or I could be optimistic. I could be optimistic, or I could be a dummy. I can make stupid decisions. And the thing is, this leads to what I would change about the game. I wish the game would give you a more of the endings would change a little bit more. That's something I would change about the game. Make your choices really, really matter, towards the end. I remember playing season 2 of The Walking Dead. I was hoping, my changes or my decisions would, affect my season 3. Kind of didn't, because they wrote off some characters, like what's his name? How do I forget his name? Whatever, the guy that was with Clementine in the first, how in the world do I forget his name? But the guy was with Clementine in the season 2, that was also in season 1. They wrote him off, they killed him, and that was clearly your choice didn't matter, and they started over. So choices didn't matter too much in the game, which is not a good thing, especially when you saying choices matter. Certain outcome, the choices matter, but towards the ending, choices didn't matter. So that's why I would change about the game. But after that, what got me hooked into that game was the story. The story was solid, fellas. Very good. I was so invested that I was making my own little, dialogues while playing. If you remember, if you were watching some of my lives back then, some of the lives I was making my own, dialogue. I was putting myself in the character's situation. I was invested in the way they wrote that story. It was just a well-told story, and I have to give them props there. And that's one of the games I really enjoy, and it was story-driven too. Story-driven. And I don't know what happened to Telltales. I don't see too many games they made. There was some games I haven't played yet that I will play, like the Wolf one. I forgot, Among Wolf. One of them, something like that. It's one of the Wolf games. It's one of the Telltale games, and I kind of wanted to play that one too. And that's why I really enjoyed that game, because the story was solid. Another story-driven game I enjoyed was a game that goes by the name Beyond Two Souls. That's another solid, and it had characters that were famous actors in it, but it didn't tell you that it was an open world game. No, It's told you it's a story. It's strictly a story-driven game. And I played it. The first time I played it on the PS3 back then, I enjoyed it. I don't know why, but the story got me. It was pretty cool. With Aiden, and Jody. Such a solid connection. And the story was told well. The ending I enjoyed. You got to actually make a choice in the end, which is pretty cool. Your choices kind of mattered, so which made it was cool. So I really enjoyed those type of games. Were good back then. That's because the story was told very well, and it was a strictly story driven game. I can't lie. Fellas, I'm not gonna say it's the best game ever, but I enjoyed those. Those are the games I enjoyed that was strictly story driven. So fellas, that's a little bit about myself. I had to tell you a little bit about where I came from with games. I really, really enjoy games. And I have to criticize them now if they're being trash. If they're like all these games being released bad and terribly, I have to criticize. I have to say something for my love's sake. I have to say something. I have to, that's what kind of encouraged me to make games reviews, because I kind of, fellas, I don't know. I know I have a little bit of bias. Let's be honest. All of us do. But from the games I played, I usually, that's where I'm coming from. I know people want to say, oh, there's new changes. Some of these new changes are terrible. In my opinion, they are terrible. So maybe that's why I just don't want to adapt. I refuse to adapt to the new change, or I refuse to encourage the changes because they're terrible. Microtransactions. You want me to encourage that? Terrible storytelling. Terrible combat system, terrible gameplay. You want me to encourage that? Come on, man. And a downgrade from your previous game. You want me to encourage that when I know you can do better? No, man. I can't encourage that, fellas. And that's why I started making videos like this, about these games now, because I have to at this point. At least I feel like I have to. I don't really have to, but I feel like I have to. And I really enjoy games. You can tell me also, where you came from with games also in the comments if you made it this far into the video. But I want to make more videos like this, just speaking about this stuff, because I don't usually edit my videos. That's another thing I kind of want to mention. Why I don't edit my videos, it's because I feel like I'm missing this old natural, no edit, no jump cut commentary. I really enjoy that, and I feel like I should bring that back. I don't see too much of it. Most people now, you must have energy. You must be jump cutting every single, mistakes you make. I gotta keep it natural. I know people don't want to hear, me keeping it natural, but that's how I kind of want to make my videos. I gotta keep it natural. I gotta keep it OG, and real, if that makes any sense. I gotta make it real. I can't, and it's not just because I'm lazy. I don't want to edit. First of all, I'm not that good at editing in the first place. Second, I just feel like the OG way is, I just miss this commentary way, fellas. I do. Somebody sitting there like it's a podcast, and they, talking to you naturally, and they being real. I miss that. And that used to be back then, in the 2010s, 2008s. I don't think they make that stuff anymore. And I was watching YouTube since I was young, since I first got here, since I first came to America. I was watching YouTube young. And I miss these old ways. Personality, man. People don't have personality. People are just copying, not copying, but they are bringing this fake energy, this fake personality. It's like, I get, if that's their personality, I guess, but for me, it's not for me. It's mostly to attract children. If you just gotta make the old commentary, make jokes. And another question I usually get is, why don't I cuss a lot? The only reason I don't cuss is, first, I'm religious. I'm not gonna have cuss words coming out of my mouth 24/7. And second, I believe you can be entertaining without cussing. You don't have to cuss 24/7, fellas. And I kind of want to bring that difference to my channel. I know there's people that do family friendly, but they do family friendly to gain money. I'm doing it, that's just how I am. And, I don't want to, bring that. I believe that you can be entertaining without cussing. I don't care if you do. If you do it, that's you. But for me, I know that I can be entertaining and I can be cool without cussing. I don't have to cuss all the time. And that's why in my stream I don't do it, because it's not even in my nature, weirdly, because I haven't cussed in years. It's not even naturally for me to do it. I say the N-word here and there sometimes. N-word, which nigga. I say it here and there sometimes, and it's, that's just how it is, but it's not a cuss word. But again, I don't feel the need to cuss. You could do it. I don't care, but I don't feel the need to cuss myself. Again, I am religious, so you ain't gonna hear cuss words coming out of my mouth unless I'm like, nah, cuss word ain't coming out of my mouth. But that's just me though. But that's just one thing to explain about myself. And fellas, this is how I was, raised. I was raised not, in a family that don't believe in playing games. My culture don't believe. I'm from Haiti. Our culture don't believe in playing games. Playing games is a waste of time. If you meet any Haitian person, playing game is a waste of time. But they don't know that playing games also, playing games, you can learn from games. There's stuff you can learn from games. That's actually good about games. Yes, sitting there 10 hours a day is not a good idea. I don't recommend that to anyone. Sitting down hours a day and playing countless hours of games is not a good idea. But games still bring something cool. Imagine, like I said with Bully, it's a fantasy world I am playing. I'm playing as a student that I wouldn't do in real life. I know I shouldn't do in real life, and I know I can't do in real life. You playing in a fantasy. That's what games supposed to be about, a fantasy. It's not meant to be preaching to you, things how you're supposed to think. It's not meant to, school you too much. Like most of the games are coming out now. It's not meant to push an agenda. It's meant for fun first. That's what games are supposed to be first. Not push an agenda at you, and all this garbage you see. Like, I know I'm not gonna mention it because I don't like bringing politics too hard, but you know what I'm saying. And this is the I know this video is pretty long. I don't know if anybody gonna watch this long, my goodness. But this is just how I feel about games, fellas. And this just a little bit of where I'm coming from with this. What I've experienced with games, how I feel about it. You guys let me know what y'all think in the comments. If you made it this far, my goodness, if you made it this far, you are a trooper. And this is why I thank you guys for 1,000 subs. I say it a million times on the channel, fellas. I say it a bazillion times. I really appreciate you. I appreciate everybody that watch, because think about it. You could have chosen anybody to subscribe to, and you subscribe to this channel, which is just amazing to me. It is amazing to me, fellas. You took the time out of your day to say, hey, this guy's worth my subscription. That has to be, that's crazy to me. And I remember when I had 30, 40 subs, I never thought 1,000 would even, the thing is, I know you hear a lot of YouTubers saying it, but it's legit. I never thought 1,000. I'm just a small guy that works and go to school. I never thought 1,000 people would actually subscribe here. Seriously? But you did. And I appreciate that. And, this is why I make these commentary videos, to chat with you guys. That's why in my live, I always answer everything. Because it's meant, that's what, as a YouTuber, you're supposed to do. Build a community to, well, that's what I think. Build a community that you can, you can chat with. Basically, quote unquote, not all the way, but you know, a small community, small community that you can build up, and you know, can chat with. Yes, we're not close. Yes, we're far away from each other, but it's still cool to have, you know, some people watch you. It's cool. And I really appreciate it, fellas. You guys let me know what y'all think in the comments about what I've said here. You know, I kind of want to make more videos going deeper details maybe into how I feel about games, but thanks for watching this video, man. Thanks for 1,000 subscribers. I appreciate you.